Shalom Chevra, I hope you're all doing well. So at the beginning of Sefer Bamidbar, Parsha Bamidbar, in the Midrash Rabbah, Bamidbar Rabbah, the Midrash tells us as follows on the pasuk. It says, "Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe b'Midbar Sinai," that God speaks to Moshe in the desert, the Sinai desert, and the Midrash tells us, "Ela kol mi she'eno ose atzmo k'midbar," anybody who does not make themselves like a desert. And what does that mean? Hefker, that we should be like ownerless. Eno yachol liknot et hachachma v'hatorah, that they're not going to be able to acquire wisdom and Torah. Lekach ne'amar b'midbar Sinai. Therefore, the Torah tells us that he spoke to him in the Midbar. Now, there are different approaches that have been taken to explain the Midrash's intent in admonishing us to resemble a desert with regard to Torah. One explanation can be that the reference to the concept of Hefker in the Midrash, the state of having no owner, where a desert state of Hefker means that it is open and accessible to anyone. There are no fences, guards, or signs forbidding trespassers. The desert is a place of open and unlimited access to anybody interested in passing through the area. The Midrash thus perhaps warns against the proverbial ivory tower syndrome, the distance and barriers that often separate the scholars from the layperson. Intellectual achievement often breeds elitism and withdrawal, an inability to relate meaningfully and sensitively to those outside one's inner circle. And Torah could very easily present such a trap. Our tradition encourages intensive and disciplined devotion to study and the pursuit of scholarship, but this could result in the formation of cliques of accomplished scholars who look down upon and show little concern for the majority and for others. Rabbi Akiva's actually astonishing testimony of himself, that before he began studying Torah, he felt the urge to bite Torah scholars. So many view that as it's a self-deprecating, but it's likely a scathing condemnation not of himself, but rather of the scholarly community of his time. Perhaps Rabbi Akiva, who's depicted elsewhere as a humble, kind, gentle shepherd, was repulsed by the arrogance and condescension he witnessed amongst the Torah scholars of his generation, which was then later, and he's later incapable actually of controlling that even among his own students, who we say perish because they did not treat each other respectfully. Likewise, we see Hillel, who had to, the Gemara tells us, had to climb up to the top of the Beit Midrash to learn Torah through the skylight, and that he was frozen during a blizzard just to be able to hear the lectures of Shemaiah and of Talion. Not only is that a testament to his remarkable devotion to learning, but also an indictment of the yeshiva system of his time that failed to provide a solution for a simple woodcutter who couldn't afford to pay his way into the Beit Midrash, but he craved Torah knowledge. The sages of the Midrash thus admonish us to pursue Torah scholarship with the mindset of Hefker. Okay, not of being Hefker, but inviting, welcoming the involvement, company, and friendship of all people. Living a life of Torah must mean living in a desert, meaning not living in an exclusive club. It means being accessible and friendly to all, rather than isolating oneself in the citadels of scholarship. Rashi describes Bnei Israel encamping at the root of Har Sinai, ki ish achad belev achad, as one person with one heart. That's Shemot, Perek Tet, and Pasuk Bet. We accepted the Torah not as separate individuals, but as one person, as an organic entity. And thus, Our responsibility and commitment to Torah is likewise a collective effort. The scholarly elite work on behalf of the entire Jewish people, and they are thus responsible to the entire Jewish nation. Just as we receive the Torah ki ish echad, so must we study and practice the Torah ki ish echad, belev echad, without losing our sense of fealty and obligation toward all of our fellow Jews. Have a wonderful week and a Chag Sameach.